Not everyone will understand. But if you are a chosen one, at some point in your life you will feel this calling. It doesn't come with noise, it doesn't scream. It arrives in silence, right in the middle of the chaos. While the world wants to speed you up, you begin to slow down. And there, in the silence, something awakens. You begin to realize that you are different. What once held you back no longer does. What once attracted you now feels shallow. And little by little, you distance yourself. Not out of contempt, but out of necessity. The outside world no longer nourishes you. You feel the need to return to yourself. And that changes everything. This voluntary retreat takes you to an unfamiliar place. Yourself. And there, without distractions, without expectations, without masks, you finally meet yourself. And in that meeting with yourself, something profoundly changes in the way you see others, especially women. The illusion fades, the dependency dissolves, and clarity arises. You stop looking in others for what can only be found within. You discover that love is not a remedy for loneliness, nor an escape route from your own soul. You discover that peace is not negotiable, that respect begins from within, and that before being with someone, you must learn to be with yourself, whole, present, free. My name is George, and if you felt this message spoke to you, it's because you also carry this energy of the chosen ones. Here we don't chase approval, we seek awakening. If this touched you in any way, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. We're together on this journey. Let's move forward. When silence becomes a teacher, the beginning of transformation, there is a moment that doesn't announce its arrival. It makes no fuss and demands no attention. But those who are chosen feel it. Suddenly, everything around goes silent. The phone stops ringing, conversations disappear, and the demands cease. The external noise continues, but inside, a new space is born. A calm emptiness, almost sacred. This space is uncomfortable at first. Used to filling everything with stimuli, the chosen one finds this stillness strange. But instead of running back to the chaos, he decides to stay. Little by little, he realizes that this silence is not absence, but presence. It's not wounded loneliness, but an opportunity for encounter. And in that encounter, something begins to change. He starts to listen to what he used to ignore, his own thoughts. He feels forgotten emotions, relives memories left behind, and most importantly, observes patterns he had never questioned. He begins to notice how much he used to see women through a heavy emotional filter, built from unresolved desires and unrealistic expectations. It wasn't about love. It was about lack. He sought shelter, answers, distraction in them. He idealized, projected, and without realizing it, turned them into characters in a script that existed only in his mind. When they didn't fulfill the imagined role, he got frustrated. But now, in this silence, he begins to see more clearly. The woman ceases to be the solution and returns to being who she is, human, full of nuances, layers, and experiences that don't revolve around him. He no longer needs her to fill his voids. He has learned to be enough for himself. And with that, something precious happens. He begins to feel true respect, not only for her, but for himself. This change does not come with arrogance. It brings humility. He starts talking less and listening more. Instead of seeking sparks, he seeks harmony. And he understands that not every silence needs to be filled with words. That love is not a performance. That presence is worth more than promises. And peace is more valuable than blind passion. This man does not shut himself off from love. He simply no longer romanticizes it. He doesn't desire intense stories full of highs and lows. He wants lightness. He wants to look into someone's eyes and feel that he doesn't need to hide. that he can be who he is truthfully, without trying to impress or conquer at any cost. He also realizes that many times he confused attention with affection, and intensity with connection. He understands that not all affection is sincere, and not all chemistry is compatibility. Before, this went unnoticed, but now, his eyes have been trained by silence. He sees what he didn't see before. He feels what he once ignored. Silence taught him more than any advice. It was in that empty space that he found himself. He discovered that not all company is healing, and not all absence is pain. Sometimes, it is in absence that the true self appears. And when the chosen one finds this self, he becomes whole, and no one else needs to complete him. This is the beginning of a deep transformation. The journey is still far from over, but something is already clear. He will not go back to who he was. Not because he became someone else, but because he finally recognized himself. And that recognition changes everything. The way he lives, the way he loves, and above all, the way he relates to the world. The fall of illusion. When romanticism meets truth. Over time, solitude stops being uncomfortable and becomes a mirror. The chosen one begins to reevaluate what he believed about love, relationships, and most importantly, about himself. What once seemed romantic now sounds needy. What he thought was intensity, he now understands as disguised urgency. And this new vision reorganizes everything. He revisits old stories, remembers past loves, bonds formed in haste, promises made in moments of insecurity. He understands that many times he didn't love, he just clung. He sought affection as if it were shelter, offered what he didn't even have. And that doesn't make him weak, just human. But now, he knows more. This man realizes it was never about the other person. It was about what he needed her to represent. The perfect partner, the emotional answer, the certainty in an uncertain world. But that was projection. It was illusion. And there is no truth in something created only to soothe fears that were never faced. As he lets that illusion fall, something new is born. Discernment. He no longer seeks the idealized partner. He seeks a real woman, with flaws, with stories, with truths. He doesn't want her to be perfect. He wants her to be present. He doesn't want to be saved by her. He wants to grow with her. And that transforms the way he connects. The question changes. Before, he wanted to know what she could offer. Now he wants to know who she is. He observes how she thinks, feels, and reacts, whether she walks with her feet on the ground or lives in escape as he once did. And it's not about judgment. It's about choosing with maturity, not with neediness. This new posture distances him from emotional games. He no longer needs to prove his worth, nor does he accept being tested. He respects his energy, his time, his silence. He no longer responds to invitations disguised as drama. He wants truth. He wants reciprocity. He wants an exchange that expands, not drains. And that scares those still living in illusion. He becomes more selective, not out of pride, but out of responsibility. He knows the cost of surrender. He knows that opening the heart is not easy for someone who has rebuilt himself alone. That's why he protects this space. He no longer allows just any confusing emotion to pull him out of himself. His love now has criteria. This man is in no hurry. He doesn't chase fleeting intensity. He desires stability. And not because he's afraid of getting hurt, but because he values what he has built inside. He knows that love is beautiful, but only when it is born from freedom. Anything different from that is attachment by another name. The fall of illusion is painful, but necessary. The chosen one needs to lose the enchantment to find the truth, And once he sees with clean eyes, he can no longer deceive himself. He doesn't want a beautiful story. He wants a light one, written by two hands, without rush, without games, with real presence. This is the new romanticism. Less fantasy, more awareness. Less urgency, more harmony. Love ceases to be an escape and becomes a choice. And when it's like that, it doesn't weigh, it doesn't suffocate, it doesn't demand proof. It simply flows. And that is only possible because, before loving someone else, the chosen one learned to truly love himself. The end of neediness. Respect is born. The anxiety that once dominated the chosen one begins to dissolve. That constant desire to be noticed gives way to a comfortable silence. He no longer rushes to send messages, doesn't suffer over response times. He realizes that being with someone should be light, not an attempt to patch emotional holes. In this new state, he identifies the signs of neediness. He sees how it used to disguise itself as exaggerated kindness, unfair tolerance, fear of setting boundaries. He was once the man who gave in to be accepted, who did everything possible to avoid displeasing others. Now, he understands that respect begins when we stop acting to please and start acting with truth. This change begins within and overflows. He becomes firmer, more centered. Neediness gives way to balance. He no longer hides behind expectations. He knows that being with someone should be a conscious decision, not a reflex of the fear of being alone. And that transforms the way he positions himself. This new respect also makes him more observant. He notices when an exchange is unequal, when he is giving more than he receives, and he doesn't fight for attention. He simply distances himself. There is no resentment, just the understanding that respect is not something to be begged for. It's something that is either felt or not felt. He begins to take better care of his energy. Before, he gave himself without limits, believing that this was love. Today, he understands that loving is not about emptying yourself. It's about being whole beside someone who is also whole. If a relationship tires him more than it calms, he notices, and he chooses what nourishes him, not what drains him. Self-respect is reflected in his relationships. He learns to say no without guilt, learns to end cycles without drama, learns to walk away without needing to prove anything. This lightness is new. Before, he believed he had to fight for everything. Now he knows that what is true does not require constant effort to remain. This internal change is not arrogance. It is awareness. The chosen one has already gone through relationships where he lost himself, trying to be enough. Today, he is enough. And because he is enough, he no longer submits to dynamics that require his absence so that the other feels good. He does not trade peace for presence. Respect transforms the way he speaks, how he expresses himself, how he makes decisions. He no longer tolerates games, does not feed false expectations, does not accept halves. He is whole, and he only connects with those who value that. There is no fear, there is clarity, and that clarity is what sustains everything he builds from here on out. When neediness dies, respect is born, a silent, firm, deep respect. A kind of respect that does not need to be declared because it is felt in the look, in the gesture, in the space he occupies. The chosen one does not demand love. He becomes someone who loves with truth, and that presence changes everything around him. From chaos to clarity, when drama loses its charm, the chosen one distances himself from the emotional confusion that once surrounded him. He no longer finds pleasure in turbulent relationships. Those constant arguments, the disappearing acts, the intense highs and lows, all that which once seemed like a sign of passion now feels exhausting. He realizes that living in constant imbalance is not love. It's wear and tear. He no longer gets involved on impulse. Before reacting, he breathes. Before responding, he feels. This pause between emotion and action makes all the difference. This maturity prevents him from feeding unnecessary arguments. He prefers peace over being right, prefers silence over pointless discussions. He becomes more attentive to patterns. He notices when someone repeats behaviors that destabilize him. He no longer accepts excuses that always come with the same mistakes. He understands that those who want to be together learn. Those who prefer to repeat are not willing. And he no longer has time for things that go in circles. The clarity he found doesn't make him insensitive. He still feels, still loves, still gives of himself. But now, with discernment, he allows himself to get close, but observes. He listens to what the other person says, but also to what they show through their actions. And if there's no alignment, he doesn't force connections. This man has learned that emotional chaos is not healthy. He once confused it with love, with emotion, with attachment. But now he chooses what brings calm, what nourishes. If a bond requires him to lose his peace to maintain the connection, he lets go. Because maintaining peace has become a priority in any relationship. He understands that not every passion leads to love, and that not every intensity is a sign of truth. What is true doesn't need to hurt, doesn't need to be complicated, doesn't need to prove itself all the time. He wants presence, sincerity, peace. And he no longer gives that up for anyone. This clarity distances him from chaos, but brings him closer to himself. He now clearly sees what used to be confusing. And this new perspective completely changes the way he loves. Now love is a calm choice, not an emotional storm. And whoever wants to walk with him must understand that maturity is also a form of affection. When peace becomes the new normal, the chosen one's inner standard. After spending so much time immersed in himself, the chosen one finds a rare thing: peace. Not a fleeting peace, but a constant state. It no longer depends on the external climate, nor on who is around. He discovered a place within himself where everything is calmer, and once he accesses that place, he doesn't want to leave. Before, he was used to the agitation. Emotions came like waves, and he thought it was normal to be carried away by them. Today, he realizes that living in peace is possible, and not only possible, it's essential. His life changes rhythm. Mornings gain silence, nights comfort. He begins to organize his routine around this new state. This peace is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of what is real. He still feels, still desires, still gets involved. But now, everything comes with more balance. If something disturbs his calm, he doesn't ignore it. He listens, understands, and if necessary, distances himself. He no longer negotiates what he built with so much effort. In relationships, this is clearly reflected. He no longer seeks intensity at any cost. He wants lightness. He wants to feel that he can breathe beside someone, that he doesn't need to hide or justify himself, that he can be who he is. And when he finds that, he opens up. When he doesn't, he prefers his own company. He also starts attracting different people. Those still living in turbulence can't stay in contact with his tranquility. His energy has become a mirror. It reflects security, solidity, truth. And those who are ready for that come closer. Those who are not, drift away. And that doesn't shake him. It only confirms that he's on the right path. Even in difficult moments, he doesn't despair. He has learned to wait, learned to breathe, learned that the answer doesn't always come quickly, but that rushing only delays it. He learned that peace is not something found outside, but within, and that we can only maintain on the outside what we've already built on the inside. This new standard guides him in everything. in work, in friendships, in love. He filters everything through the same question. Does it keep me in peace or pull me away from myself? And when the answer is clear, he acts without guilt, because he knows he can no longer give up what keeps him whole. Peace has become the center, and everything around it must respect that center. He doesn't demand the world to change, but he chooses where he steps, who he walks with, and what he cultivates. The chosen one understands that living in peace is his greatest achievement, and everything that is real will find its place within that tranquility. Empathy without confusion. The heart aligned with truth. Something curious happens to the chosen one along this journey. His empathy increases, but his tolerance for illusions decreases. He is no longer the one who takes on the pain of others as if it were his own. He cares, but without carrying. He nurtures, but without erasing himself. Before, he confused empathy with obligation. He believed that if a woman was sad, it was his responsibility to save her. If she was frustrated, he was to blame. And so he entered relationships trying to erase pains that were not his, and lost himself. Today, he sees more clearly. He's able to be present without trying to fix, to listen without absorbing, to love without falling apart in the process. He understands that pain deserves space, but should not become a prison, that supporting someone doesn't mean sinking with them. This is mature empathy, love with boundaries, care with discernment. Women feel this. With him, they are not suffocated by unrealistic promises, nor manipulated by conditional affection. He doesn't offer himself as a savior, but as a presence. And for that very reason, he becomes a safe harbor. Because he doesn't hide in emotions nor use them as an excuse. He remains whole, even in someone else's chaos. This clarity also changes the way he deals with himself. He stops romanticizing suffering, no longer uses his pain to ask for affection. He doesn't dramatize life to feel alive, and by seeing all this with lucidity, he stops attracting relationships based on dependency. Love stops being a need and becomes a choice. There comes a point, after a long time alone, when the chosen one understands the difference between wanting someone and depending on that person. And this is one of the deepest transformations he experiences. Love, for him, stops being impulsive desire and becomes a serene decision. In the past, he gave himself out of fear of losing. He loved quickly, anxiously, with that feeling that he needed to secure affection before it slipped away. Today, he understands that true love doesn't rush. It walks side by side. By building a life in silence, he learned that his happiness isn't in anyone's arms. It's in his purpose, in his routine, in his self-care. So, when he loves, he does it out of abundance, not out of lack. And that changes everything in the relationship dynamic. He chooses the woman, but doesn't need her to exist. She is not his salvation nor his mission. She is a conscious choice, and she only remains if her presence adds peace, freedom, and truth to the life he already tends to with such care. For her, this experience is also new. Being with someone who doesn't demand, doesn't suffocate, doesn't require her to complete him, is liberating. The true awakening of a chosen one doesn't happen in the noise of external achievements, but in the silence, he learns to respect within himself. It's there, far from expectations, pressures, and old emotional patterns, that he finally understands who he is and who he never was. This recognition doesn't come from outside. It doesn't depend on praise, validation, or applause. It comes from within. And that's why it's unshakable. He learns that he doesn't need to prove anything, doesn't need to compete, doesn't need to shout to be seen. When he is at peace with himself, life changes pace. The days gain more clarity. Choices stop being reactions and become conscious decisions. And in this new rhythm, he begins to better select who enters his life and why. The rush dissolves, the urgency dies, and presence is born. To relate now is not about filling voids. It's about sharing wholeness. He no longer seeks someone to complete him, but someone to walk with him. And the woman who comes close feels this. She is not pressured to save, to fill, to carry the weight of someone else's emotional world. She is welcomed as she is. And because of that, she feels safe. Because the chosen one who has come to know himself does not require anyone to carry what is his. This man is in no rush, because he has learned the value of waiting. He doesn't beg for attention, because he has learned to be his own shelter. He doesn't hold anyone back, because he knows that freedom is the soil where real love blooms. He is firm, but not harsh. He is calm, but not absent. And above all, he is true, because he has learned that truth, no matter how quiet, is what connects the most. This transformation doesn't make him better than anyone, only more self-aware. He understands that many are still halfway there, stumbling where he once fell. That's why he doesn't judge. He extends a hand, shares his vision, but knows that everyone has their time. And time, for the chosen one, is not the enemy. It is the teacher. In the end, the journey was never about finding the right woman, the right relationship, the right validation. It was about returning home, the inner home, where everything begins and everything is resolved, where love is not an escape, but a choice, where peace is not the exception, but the rule, where truth lives, even if many don't want to see it. If you've made it this far, maybe you're going through this same process. Maybe you're feeling this calling, this discomfort, this desire to stop running and finally listen to yourself. And if that's the case, I want to thank you for allowing this exchange. I want to invite you to comment below. What part of this content touched you the most? Or simply write, "I am a chosen one." That alone is enough to know we're connected. See you in the next one.